come now to Luke chapter 2, where we pick up our study of the Greek text of the Gospel of Luke. And let's just read the text first, and then we'll look at each verse individually, starting with verse 1. E hierato de tes emeros ekines ex elfen dogma, paraceseros Augusto, apographeste passan ten igomenen, av te apographe prote, e hierato ego menevontos tis surios Kyreniu, que eporevonto pantes, apographeste ekastos iste imeti polin, anebe de que Iosef, apotes Galileos ec poleos Nazaret, isten Judeon, is polen David, etis calite Bethlehem, dieto enaevton ec ico que patrias David, apographeste sun Mariam, ten imnem nestevmene evto use ecio, e genito de into inae, evtus eci, επλέστεσταν mere tu teknen αυτήν, και έτεκεν τον βιον αυτές τον πρωτότοκον, και εσπαργάνωσαν αυτόν, και ανέκλειναν αυτόν εν φάτνε, διότι ουκ εν αυτής τόπος εν τον καταλούμματι, και πλούμους έσαν εν τε χώρα τε αυτέ, αγραυλούντες και φουλασσάντες φυλακτες νύκτος, και άγγελος Kyriou επέσται αυτούς, και δόξα Kyriou περιέλεμψεν αυτούς, και εφοβέθησαν φόβον μέγαν, και είπεν αυτούς ο άγγελος, με φοβήστε, ιδού γαρ ευαγγελίζομαι ημίν χαράν μεγάλην, έτης εστε πάντε το λαό, ότι ετέχθε ημίν σεμερόν σωτέρ, ως εστιν Χριστός Κύριος, εν πολυ Δαβίβ, και τούτο ημίν τε Σημειών, ευρέσε βρέφος εσπαργανωμένον, και κείμενον εν φάτνε, και εξέφνες εγίνητος σουν τε άγγελο πλέτος στρατιάς ουρανίου, ανούν τον Θεόν και λεγόντων, δόξο εν ύψis της Θεού και επιτυχές ειρήνη, εν ανθρώπης ιδοκίας, και εγίνεται ως απέλθον απ' αυτόν εις τον ουρανόν, οι άγγελοι, οι γυμνές, οι λαλούν προς αλλήλους, διέλθομεν δε, έως Bethlehem, και είδομεν τε ρέμα τούτο, το γεγονός, ο Κύριος εγενορίσεν ημίν, και έλθαν σπεύσαντες, και ανέβραν τε Μαριάμ, και το Ιωσέφ, και το βρέφος, κείμνον εν τε φάτνε, idontes de egonirisan pere tu remotus ti lalethentos avti spiritu pediu tutu, que panteso accusantes e thavmasan periton lalethenton, upoton plumenon proseptus, ede Mariam panda sune tere remete taftas sum balusa in te cardia aftes, que ipestrepsen, y puimenes daxontes, que anuntes tonteon, epipasan is ecosan, que idon cathos a la leve pros aptus, que ote eplestesan, emere octo tu peritemen avton, que eclefe to anoma avtu Jesus, ta clethen upa tu angelu pratu, sune memphene avton in te kilia. We'll stop there. I think that's enough to give us a flow of chapter 2. So we go back to verse 1, and we'll just kind of walk through Luke's grammar, which is, as I said, tends to be a higher register when we come to the Greek New Testament. It definitely has some classical features, things that reflect more, at least of the classical period. It's presumed that Luke was probably classically trained. This is one of the reasons why when you're reading Luke and Acts, you're reading a style of Greek that is more rigorous, and that's what we have here. So we come to the birth of Jesus in this narrative, which we really see here in kind of verses 1 through 7. And Luke is introducing this episode by explaining the presence of Mary and Joseph in Bethlehem, and he's recounting this story within the frame of this messianic promise contained in Micah. And the text here references, the town of Bethlehem. And so Luke is playing the part of a historian, and he's dating the birth of Jesus for us in so doing. So, verse 1, E geneto de in pes emeros ekines, ex elthein dogma para Kaisaros, av gustu apographeste pasantein eco mine. So we look here and we see Luke loves this. So much of his, when you look through all the chapters of Luke, you keep seeing the sections of Luke saying this. And this is his moving on to the next section sort of language that he employs. So, and it came about, we could say, that's a good way to translate a genetode. And it came about in those days that a dogma, a decree, ex elthein, went out para Kaisaros, went out from whom? From Caesar Augustus, that all tain ecomenein, all the world, for all the world apographeste, should be registered. You've got in here in plus the dative here. I think it's just adverbial introducing a temporal prepositional phrase, and then you have this para plus the genitive, which is just sort of expressing the idea of source, and you've got this sort of technical word apographeste, from apographo, a census. It means something like to be enrolled. It's passive, so that a roll, to be enrolled, we could say, or registered or something of that nature. And dogma just means a decree or an order. So one of those two things, one of those two terms would be sufficient. Verse 2. Avte apographe prote, geneta ege monevontos tes Syrias Kyreniu. This apographe, right? This, we just had that word, this enrollment, this this register, this census, something of that nature, was the first, the prote, while he was governing tes Syrias Kyreniu, while Quirinius Kyreniu something. It's a tough name to pronounce, but I think it's Quirinius or something like that. Quirinius was governing Syria. Verse 3. Ke epo revonto pontes apographeste hekatos isten iavtu polen. And Pontes, that's everyone, et parevonto, was traveling, and you have the infinitive here, was traveling to be registered. Again, we keep seeing the same word over and over, to be enrolled. Who is to be enrolled? Well, hekastos, each one to be enrolled. Eastain evaltu polin, each to his own city. Verse 4. Aneve de he Yosef apates Galalias ek poleos Nazaret, eastain Judaion is polin, David hetes kalite Bethlehem dieta enai evto ex ego que patres David. And Anabe is to go up. So, and also, Joseph went up from Galilee, from the city of Nazareth, Eastain Judaion, from Judea, unto the city of David, Hatis, which is called Kalete, Bethlehem, because causal use of dia, ta plus the infinitive here. Whenever you see dia, ta plus the infinitive, it's causal. So, right, the city of David, which is called Bethlehem because he was of the house and patrias. This is like your father, your family, your from your father's side. So, maybe something like lineage, because he was of the house and lineage of David. But I mean, there's probably other ways we could render that. Family, potentially we could say from the house and the family of David. And then we have verse 5 with another infinitive. Again, the same word, to register sun Mariam with Mary, the one, and this word, menestevmene, is an interesting word, which really it comes from mu, nu, eta, sigma, tau, epsilon, upsilon, omega, nestevo, which is to be betrothed, to be pledged to be married to. So we could say, let's see. So to register with Mary, the one engaged, betrothed, we could say to him, use being egg kio, pregnant, verse 6, e geneto de into inai avtus, eche eplestesan, he emere tu teknin avtin. And it came about, so either you have that e geneto de again, all right, and it came about, into plus an infinitive. You've got this very similar sort of construction where you have, this is temporal. You see into, and then you have this temporal idea here. So we could say, maybe while they were, and it came about while they were ehi there, while they were there, the days he hemere epletheson were fulfilled. Teknin avtain. So this is kind of interesting from tikto. The infinitive takes an accusative subject, avtain. So what's happening here is, the accusative subject of the infinitive is avtain, her. So the time came for her to deliver her child, essentially. The time came for her to bear, to give birth. Okay? Verse 7, ke eteken ton huion avtes ton prototokon ke es parganosen avton ke aneklinein avten in patne dioti uk ein avtis topos ein to kata limati. And she did. All right. She eteken, she bore the son of her son, the prototokon, the firstborn, and this is a good classical word, es parganosin. Just it's this is an Omicron contract. It comes from sparganao, and it means like strips of linen. So so when we put it in a verbal sense, what we're saying is she bore her son, the firstborn, and she wrapped him in strips of linen, and on a klinane, and laid him in a fatne, a manger, dioti, because uk ain, there was not a place, a topos, for them in the kata limate, the very old word kata limate, is a lodging place. Popular Christmas music calls it an inn. There was no room for them in the inn, but yeah, it's a lodging place. Verse 8, ke pimines eson inte chora ten avte agravluntes ke fulasontes fulacas tes nictos epite pimnen apton. Turn the page here on my Greek New Testament. And the pimnes, the shepherds, were in the chora. I gotta move the screen down. I'm sorry. That's what happens when I'm reading my Greek New Testament, not moving the screen. So I apologize. And the shepherds, verse 8, were in the chora. They were in the a chora is like a region. They were in the region. They were in te avte, the same region. Grav luntes. That this is an epsilon contract. Agravleo, and it just means to leave in the open, the outdoors. So they were living outdoors essentially. And the shepherds were in the same region, right, living outdoors. And what were they doing? They were fulasontes. They were keeping fulakos, watch, tes nictos, during the night, over their flock. Ke angelas Kyriou, epeste avtis ke doxa, Kyriou peri lampsen avtus ke epho bephason phobon megan. And an angel of the Lord, epeste, appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord, peri lampsen, it shone, it lighted around them, and ephobephason, they were afraid, with a phobon megon, with a great fear. This is very Septuagintal. That is to use a verb and a cognate noun right next to each other. So you have phobephason and phobon right next to each other. This is very, very Septuagintal. Use a verb and then use the cognate noun and sort of sandwich them together. You see this all over Luke. This is a style that you're not going to see so much in Paul, but you'll see a lot in Luke. And so verse 10 then, K Epen, one other word, just to mention this. I think I've said this before, but Whenever you see Kyriou, which is Kyrios, without a definite article, it's generally safe to translate that as referring to what we would in Hebrew Old Testament refer to Yod Hey Wow Hey Yahweh, um, and so you could even translate it that way when you see Kyrios by itself without a definite article. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of Yahweh shone around them, and they were afraid with a great fear. Verse 10. Um, and ho angelos, right? That's the subject. The angel Ipanapti said to them, Me foviste, do not be afraid. This is an imperative. For behold, evangelizo me, I announce good news to you of Megalane Charan, Charan Megalane, of great joy, which will be for all the people. Panti to lao. Verse 11. Hoti etechthe yimin semeron soter hos estin Christos Kyrios in poli David. Because ektechthe, to be born, so today to you was born a soter, a savior, who is Christos Kyrios, Christ the Lord, in the poli, in the city of David. And que tuto iminto semeon ev resete brefos es pharganomenon que kimenon in fatne. And this to you, so probably an ellipted to be verb, future to be verb, and this will be to you a sign, or the sign. Well, you got the definite article. This will be to you to semeon, the sign. Evresete, you will find brephos is an infant. You will find an infant, and here's that word again, es fargano menon, having been wrapped in strips of linen, and gimenon, lying in a fatne, in a manger. Verse 13, and exi phenes. Let me move the screen. Okay. Verse 13, que ex phanes e genetos sin to angelo plethos stratias uraniu ainunton ton theon que legonton. And suddenly there was with the angel a plethos, a multitude of stratias, that's an army, but there's a further modifier, an uraniu stratia, so a heavenly army, ainunton, praising God, and legonton, saying, doxa in hypsistus teu ke epiges erene in anthropis evdokias, glory in the hypsistus, in the highest, to God, and on hes erene, and on earth peace, in anthropis, among men, evdokias, goodwill. Okay, now watch what he does in verse 15. So he's going to move again to this ke egeneto, which is, again, just very classic Lucan style to do this. Ke egeneto hos ap elthon ap efton is ton uranon I angeli I pimenes alalun pros alelus dielthomen de heos Bethlehem ke idiomen to rema tuto to egegonos ho kyrios egenorisen imin. And it came about when the angels had departed, had to go down and pick up the subject, ki angeli, and it came about when the angels departed from them to heaven. The poimenes, the shepherds, were elalun, saying to one another, dielthomen, let us go now unto Bethlehem and Idomen to rematuto to gegonos. Let us see um, to rema tuto. Let us see this thing, um, the one having come about, which the Lord egnorisen made known to us. Verse 16. Ke elthon spevsontes. I love that spevde. That this is the word for speed, to make haste. It's just fun to say spevsontes. Ke elthon spevsontes ke anevron te Mariam ke to Yosef ke to brephos ke menon inte fatne. And they came, having made haste, and they on Evron they found, and you got this nice Tekai structure, so that's both and they found both Mary and Ton Yosef, Joseph, and the brephos and the infant Kemenon lying in the fatne, in the manger. Verse 17, participle, and having seen idontes de egnorison peritu rematos tu lalethentos aptis peritu paidiu tuto, and having seen them, they made known concerning the rematos, the word, the one having been spoken to them about this tuto, this paidiu, this child. Verse 18. Oh, sorry. You need to get the verse 18. Que pantes y accusantes ethavmasen periton lalethenton upoton pimenon pros aptus. The ones having heard, what did they do? They ethavmasen, they marveled. Ethavmasan, they marveled concerning the thing that had been spoken by the poimenon, the shepherds, to them. Verse 19, he de Mariam panta sun e tere ta remata tavta sun balusa in te cardia avtes. But Mary, sune tere. This is an interesting word. Mary was kind of hard to figure out how to gloss this, but something to the effect of was keeping, was holding the things in her mind, was sort of keeping all those things close to her. So Mary was storing away, maybe putting away into one's mind. Um, and you can you get the word tereo. We know that word, right? So which means to keep. So when you put the seen prefix in front of it, it gives it sort of this lexical meaning of to keep in mind, to keep, to store away, to put away in one's mind. But Mary was keeping in mind all of these things. Rema does not just mean word; it can mean things, and Luke often uses it this way. So she was keeping in mind all of these things. Sun balusa, pondering them. just comes from sinbalo, to reflect upon, to consider, sinbalo. Um, so was considering these things, was keeping them in her mind, right? These things, and considering them in her heart. Que ipestrepsen qui pimenes doxazontes que enuntes tonteon epi passen is accusen que idon kathos alelete pros avtus. And the shepherds, what do? They hupastrips, and they returned doxazontes, glorifying, and ainuntes, praising, glorifying and praising God. What do they praise God for? Epipasin is, for all the things which Ekusan they heard, and Edon saw Kathos, just as it was spoken to them. So glorifying and praising God. And then verse 21, que hote ep les thesan hemere acto tu peritemen avton que eklethe to anima avtu Jesus ta klethen upatu angelu pra tu sulemphene avton in te kilia. And when, so to be completed, so what was completed, and when hemere days, octo, 8 days were completed, to be, for him to be circumcised, also eklethe, and when 8 days were completed for him to be circumcised, also his name was called Jesus. The name, I guess we would just assume sort of another anima there. Ta anima avtu Jesus ta, and then there's nothing else. So we could just insert name again. The name of him was called Jesus, the name having been called Hupatu Angelu by the angel before he was conceived. This is from Su Lamvano. Su Lamvano can mean a number of things, but one of the things that it means is to be conceived. Another thing that can mean is to be a helper or to assist someone. Those are the two primary renderings, and actually, you see this conception language a lot with Sumbalo, Sulambano, and so that's obviously we're talking about the birth of Jesus. So clearly, that's how Si Lambano is used here. So putting that together again in verse 21, and we could say after 8 days had passed, it was time to circumcise the child, and he was called Jesus, the name given by the angel before he was conceived in the kilia, in the womb, which can also mean stomach, but obviously in this case it's womb. I think we'll stop there. Should be enough for now, and we'll pick it up again in verse 22 in the next video.